right. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for joining me on this beautiful Tuesday morning. And I appreciate you all agreeing to having this robust conversation about interracial issues. It started as a class assignment, but for me it's much bigger than that. I get a chance to interact with the three of you and you with me, and hopefully we'll break new ground in how we see each other. I think because I already know how I feel about you, but there are moments when we are around each other just about all the time and yet not know each other. So hopefully this conversation will provide us an opportunity to come together. I'd like to start by having you introduce yourselves, and we'll go from there. So starting to my right.
My name is Carolyn Wilson, and I serve here at the Shalom Church as the congregation administrator, and it is an honor and pleasure to do so. Thank you for having me be a part of this conversation.
My name is Aaron Markham. I do video production, and I've been helping Shalom with their live stream for about 2 years now. I'm very interested to hear what this whole conversation is about.
My name is Santiago Salazar, and I know Mr. Clark for quite a few years now. Been doing the service in his house, cutting the grass, and I'm glad you invited me to this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so two of you have your mask on and two of us have it on, and so that's whatever your pleasure. I just simply want to ask, if you're going to leave it on, make sure you talk clear enough where you can be heard. I need to inform you that we are recording this session.
Okay.
And if you'd like a copy of it when we finish bringing it together, you're welcome to have it. And so I'm Freddie Clark, and I am pastor of the Shalom Church. In fact, I'm the founding pastor. We are 28 years old. It's been a joy in serving the people of God in this place. And speaking of those persons who are part of this session, I know all of you because Shalom Church has afforded me that opportunity, and for that I'm grateful. I cannot count the number of people that ministry has brought me before that have not been a blessing to my life, and so with that we'll get started. So I'm reading from this sheet of paper because I don't have the mental strength to retain and hold all of these questions. So if you don't mind, I'll just read the questions. And so the first question, and this is not an interview, this is a conversation. I'm a part of it, and it's important for me to say that have you ever taken part in an interracial dialogue before? Either spontaneous or intentional, and if so, what was it like, and how did you feel about it? There's no sequence, you just jump in. Have you ever had an interracial conversation, be it spontaneous, or were you intentional about it, and how did it make you feel?
I have, well, my wife is Filipino, so I have interracial dialogues every day.
How about that? How about that?
I've been in a unique situation that where I grew up was very diverse. So it really helped me to, in my opinion, never see color. I was around Hispanics and blacks and Asians all the time, and so I never had that, like, it never felt like an interracial dialogue to me. It just felt like conversation. And I have talked about racial topics with, like my black friends or Asian friends, but on the same end, it never, to me, it was never about race. It was just, two friends having a conversation.
Wow, that's very good. Aaron, I never knew that. I thought you were married to a black woman. That's good to know. That's good. Anybody else with you?
Yeah, I think for myself, my conversations are mostly unintentional with, however, with other people who are like me, whether it's my family or whether it's my friends. Maybe because those are the people that are close. Those are the people who are part of my environment. I've never had an opportunity like Aaron, I don't think, to enter into that conversation with other people because they're not a part of my everyday world, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's interesting to hear your perspective, and I want to go back on something that you said when we get back to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, me and myself is just like every day, my clients, some white, some black, some, a couple of Asians too, and never had any specific racial conversation. Everything is just related to work and stuff like that. So I don't think I ever had any irrational conversations. So.
Yeah. So if you were to Santiago, would it make you uncomfortable in any way?
I've been uncomfortable a couple of times
Uh-huh.
at a store. You know what, I've been point and attack. But just ignore and walk away.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
know, some kids that just are acting smart and talking to me and a friend, and we just walk away.
Yeah.
Trying to
There was
avoid.
something somebody said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was these few kids that were just talking smack, and they point us and telling us a couple words, and we just decided to walk away. Instead of make a confrontation and seeing especially at the store.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just walk away. I was in a Fry's Electronics, when you hear about the store back in West Side, California.
Uh-huh.
And they just start calling us names and everything. So we just drop what we got in our hands and walk away. And the manager right there, he approached to us trying to apologize, but at the same way, I feel attacked by him because he was telling us what I was there the first time. I was like, dude, I'm here to spend my money, to buy stuff that I need for my home. And we just walk away.
Do you think that it was your being Hispanic
Yeah.
that
Yeah, that was the main thing because they call us wetbacks.
Called you what?
Wetback. Yeah, so I was just like, all right, that's good. I just, yeah, man, it doesn't bother me at all. Just keep talking and just let me be. Just don't touch me because I will bite you.
Yeah, that's at another level there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can I ask, were they white?
they were white. Yeah.
See, that's like, it's usually I find that it's Caucasian people that are the ones who are at least most outward that I see it as racist. And as for me, I never, like I said, I was in a unique situation where I never saw that, and I never understood. I on my end, I never get, racist comments because I'm white. It's usually my color that are the ones that are making the racist comments.
Wow.
And, I've always, if I were to pick sides, I would always, like for the George Floyd, I would be on George Floyd's side. Because, in my opinion, the things that you have to go through because of your color are unnecessary. It's a forced perspective, in my opinion. Something that, you know, as a child, you don't have that perspective.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
something that your parents kind of force onto you that you take on as you grow up, and then you become racist because your parents are racist, or you're in a racist community, and it always amazes me that it's usually white people.
Yeah. So, and we'll come back, I want to come back just as Curtis, but Santiago, for me, that's one of my experiences as well. It doesn't happen as much as it once did when I was younger, but the clenching of the purse, the fear on the face of those persons when you get on the elevator with them, all of those kinds of things, being followed around stores, that kind of thing. That's happened to me often. I'll tell you something funny. I was standing in front of one of the five-star hotels. I was a guest at the hotel, and a man pulled up and was giving me his keys to park his car because he thought I was the valet. Now, when I look back on that, it would have been something had I taken his keys and just went joyriding. But I had to let him know that I was a guest at the hotel, and he had misread that whole situation. So it happens not as much now, but in the past it has happened quite frequently with me. I don't know about any experience you may have had.
Yeah, a teenager, actually, I don't even remember how old I was, but I was in the Dairy Queen that was on Jennings Station Road. And so we all know the history of the city of Jennings. And she didn't make my drink right, owned by a white couple. And I asked for my money back because she didn't make it right, and she refused to remake it. And so she started to get angry because I was insisting on getting my money back. And her husband came out, well, what's going on? Oh, she's just being a nigger. And my best friend Pam Jordan Westbrook was with me. Well, why she got to be a nigger? But I'm grateful that I had the presence of mind, even as a teenager. So I told Pam to stand down. I don't care nothing about being a nigga, but money talks, and she want mine, and I want it back. So give me my money back. I'll be whatever nigga you want me to be today, but you gonna give me my money back, because obviously that's the only thing that matters here now. So, but just thinking about that, my mind goes back to the civil rights, and that when we were going to Soulard Market, when I 5 or 6 or 7 years old, I had no knowledge then that my mother was required to sit on the back of the bus. So it's very surreal, but yeah, at that particular time, I'm grateful I had the presence of mind. I didn't walk away like you did, but you would go. But you're gonna get my money back, because obviously green talks more than my color. Yeah. And so I just thought it was interesting in that it's our color that shapes how we're treated. And so I'd like to, if we can get to it, to dive into what does it mean to not see color, because it's my color that creates all of my experiences. And maybe not to see my color, not necessarily you, is what prevents other people from seeing me as a person like them, who have family, friends, people who love and value me, but yet you don't recognize the experience that I've had in this country, which kind of helps us kind of stand still and not be able to move forward. So I hope did that make sense? Okay, that's great. So yeah.
I guess what I mean by, I know that you're treated a specific way because of your color, and I've never experienced that. But when I meet someone, that's not the first thing that comes into my mind. The way I say it is, an asshole is an asshole. It doesn't matter what color it is.
That's true.
So, my first judgment is based on your character versus your color. If you are kind to me, if you are a good person, that's how I'll treat you. It doesn't matter. So, yeah, I never stepped into anything, and I've had this. People have asked me before. I'll be standing in the middle of all African American people, and they're like, you don't feel weird or out of place or uncomfortable? I'm like, no, I feel fine. This is I grew up in a neighborhood where I was one of maybe 5 other white kids, so it's a normal thing to me. And some people just have trouble, I guess, understanding that because of their upbringing. And again, I fully, completely believe that racism is an upbringing. It's not an innate thing. It's something that is taught, and not, what do you call that? It's not a internal trait that you were born with.
It's a construct.
Construct, yes.
Yeah. So I've heard, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that nobody's born racist.
Right. Nobody's born
Nobody's
racist.
born racist, so
You put a 2-year-old with a bunch of other 2-year-olds of different color, they're not going to act differently
exactly.
with
They
each
actually
other.
hug each other and kiss each other because they're innocent and they don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
Until us adults come and teach them wrong.
Yeah,
That's
I
my point
agree.
of view.
I agree. Aaron, you said something about the judging of a person's character. It brought to mind that famous statement of Dr. Martin Luther King that not the color of our skin, but the content of our character is what matters. And you are in the place presently where conversations such as what we're having, we hope to move others or to invite them to come and share the perspective that you have, that I think will enable them to see the world through the lens of others and be more hospitable in the exchange. So you've been called, it looked like you said that word enough, you almost started liking it. You've been called a nigger, and you've been called
Wetback.
a wetback. Aaron, have you ever been called anything?
The only, and even a cracker, but
Cracker.
even then, I mean, that doesn't hold anywhere near the weight of
Yeah.
the other slurs. And it was from a friend, so it wasn't from
Okay,
just,
okay.
I don't think it was meant as playful as opposed to racist.
Okay.
So yeah, again, I've never had to deal with the racist construct that you all have, and I really find that unfortunate. I really do.
Yeah. How do you all think we can start to move purposely to get other people to talk to each other, to get past these racial divides? How do we start to do that? Is it through conversation? Is it some demonstration before others that what you are fearing really holds no fear at all? Or is it, if I bring up fear, is there a fear of being displaced? That people who've been part of the host culture, we had the recent census come out, and for the first time in almost forever, there's been a decline of white people in America. I mean, is that one of the fears that drives people to keep things apart rather than to try to come together? And I know that was a long question, but for the sake of this conversation, I've kind of laid my paper aside and hope that we can really maybe create a new lane that we can share with other people about how we see bridging this gap.
I mean, if you look at me and my upbringing, probably the biggest thing that causes the barrier is segregation itself. Because you don't know how the other person is. Like, you're going to have that innate fear because you've never, you may have never seen a black person until you were older, and then at that point you've already had what was taught to you innate into your mind, so that you already fear the person before you've ever even met them.
Wow.
I feel like segregation is a big part of why that fear is there. Because like I said, I grew up in a neighborhood where it was very mixed. So I saw Hispanics, I saw blacks, I saw Asians on a regular basis. I saw that they were normal people, that they were just like everybody else. I had friends who were black, I had friends who were Hispanic. It was just never, it was never a thing. And I feel if there was more commingling, if there wasn't like, oh, this is a white neighborhood, this is a black neighborhood, this is an Asian neighborhood. And I get it, people, they tend to want to stick to people of their color because they feel more comfortable. But I really feel if people were to mix together more. I think one of the biggest things is, interracial couples. I think that's a big step towards no longer seeing color, because once you have a child together, that child is mixed. It's a mixture of colors, and can you really see color at that point if you have a child that's interracial?
Good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think it is fear, and it may be just a human fear or a combination of both. A human fear because everybody wants to belong somewhere. Everyone wants to be a part of something and be seen or felt needed and valued. So to put things in front of me is to push me to the back, and then to displace me and not see me anymore. The other part, I believe, is it is a fear of not being the person or the people with the power, because it gives me access to things that I would not normally do. One incident, my daughter was in Cape Girardeau where she went to college and had to renew her license plate, and might have been missing one piece of document, but it was no big deal. She went right in, they gave her what it was that she needed. But knowing, had she been here in St. Louis, she would have met all kinds of barrier and would not have been allowed to do what she needed to do without that one piece of document. And I think that happened because it's a community of mostly the same, and they have a trust of each other. We're in an area that's largely populated by African Americans. There's that lack of trust or those preconceived ideas that we're always trying to get something that we're not entitled to. And so there are other barriers put in place. And so that's the kind of treatment that privilege gets you. It doesn't make life hard for you. It makes it kind of easy to move about. So if the fear belongs to the other person, then whose responsibility is it to create that place and space that Aaron experiences so that we could see each other for our character and not because whatever racial construct you have in your mind that tells you to keep, to keep me out and allow me to flourish the way that you are allowed to flourish. So then whose responsibility does that become? Does it become mine, the person that's always being pushed to the back? Or does it become the people who are always allowed to, in the front, to make space for those who are pushed in the back?
I believe everything starts with bad leadership. The biggest and better example I can bring to this conversation is Donald Trump.
Okay.
He started the whole revolution against racists. You know, for him, us Hispanic people are bad, rapists, narcotraficantes, and all this stuff, and we're not. We're just a human being who wants to make a better living, you know. And I believe people like him and other, not just him, other leaderships are the ones pointing the bullet, you know, saying like, oh, that's the race that we had to eliminate. Because us, whites, are the biggest. And I believe it's where everything starts, because the main branch start growing leaves, and those leaves are gonna cover you. So that's what I think.
Absolutely,
Everything starts.
absolutely.
That's amazing. Heather McGee in The Sum of Us, one of the points that she really develops, I think it might be chapter 2 of her work, is how segregation works in America. It is another construct that even the government was involved in that process. In most of our communities, we know it as redlining. That even those who are real estate agents already know, based upon your ethnicity, what direction you should go and how to take you to certain communities where you are. And there are a lot of white people who say that they want to live in an interracial community, et cetera, until they ride by it and see people that look like me in San Diego, and then they decide maybe this is not what I want. So I think we've come a long way, and yet we've got so many battles yet to fight. And you know, one of my responsibilities in understanding my calling is to encourage people not to grow weary. And when we're able to have this conversation, and then I'm blessed to hear Aaron's perspective, you know, that if it can happen with us, it can happen everywhere. I don't think that I'm being unrealistic. I really think that if we are intentional about having these kind of, in some instances, difficult conversations, this has not been difficult. I never expected for any of you all to be as honest as you have been, and to not just be honest, but to be as vulnerable as you've been, and then to transform this moment into something that at least I will walk away with being extremely hopeful, for me has made my day. And to, you know, how do we get to integrated communities? How do we get to integrated churches? Black people don't have a problem going to white churches and having white leadership. Black people don't have it. White people have a problem coming and being a part of the black church. I'm not sure I understand all of that. I've got colleagues who are far smarter than I, that if they were part of this conversation, they could give you reasons why. And I have had intentional race-led conversations with white clergy, but it was their hope, since there was a population shift to other communities, that they could do a photo op with me, post it, and then show the black people who were moving into that area that they could be trusted because they knew me. And so after having found that out, I took issues with that and stopped taking opportunities to do photo ops with people who would use it for reasons other than to really develop a interracial relationship. Yeah.
I thought what Santiago said was really about it coming from the leadership. Because even when you think about the leadership here in our city, I've often asked myself a question. It makes sense to me, and it may not make sense governmentally, or when you think about the power structure, that what would prevent a government leadership from wanting to see its entire community to flourish? What does it benefit you to keep up one segment of your community flourishing, but to keep your, because it's the only thing I can come up with, and no pun intended, your foot on the necks of another community, particularly with the violence, the level of violence that takes place in our city every night, every day. And statistics show that there's a level, a level that causes it to exist as a result of poverty. So why wouldn't you want most people in your community to have that same trusted experience that my daughter had when she was at Cape Girardeau? Because most of those people look alike, and your only goal is to make sure everybody can live and be okay. So I thought that was interesting when you said that it comes from the leadership. I think the leadership in the city has an issue, some things that they need to look at. Aaron, we're in St. Louis, and you know what question you have to ask when you live in St. Louis. And what neighborhood did you grow up in? Commonly known as, what school did you go to?
I grew up South St. Louis on the state streets, right down by Anheuser-Busch.
I did too. I grew up with my first memory, although my family come from Caroline and Rucker and those kind of places, but my first memory is living in the projects, 1229 South 12th Street.
I know exactly what you're talking
in the Doris Webby project, and then over to Grand and McCree, Cardinal Glennon, and the whole school. I went to Wyman Elementary School, so I'm very familiar with the neighborhood or the neighborhoods that you grew up in. I think I knew it right away when you start talking about you live in a diverse community, and that's pretty much the only diverse community, the most diverse community is South St. Louis. But you'll see the care that's given to the people that live in South St. Louis versus the care that's given to the people who live in North St. Louis. And then I've also had the privilege to live in North St. Louis as well. So it's a very interesting dynamic to see how our leadership keeps that segregation alive.
If I had to pinpoint it to one thing specifically, I would say it's money. If you keep a certain race down, it's easier to make them accept a lower wage. It's easier to have them work less desirable jobs.
Meaning blacks and Hispanics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say that as leadership, the biggest reason for them to do that is it's hard to subjugate someone if they feel like they're on an even keel with you. So I think it's a power/money thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Which then leads us to understand the basis for capitalism. That
And
there has to be a class system
there has to be.
if you're gonna have capitalism.
And it's interesting you said that because I've been to what we would consider socialist countries, and you do not feel the racism there that you do here. It's almost baked into the American way, so to speak. South Africa. South Africa is very, very, very diverse, and you don't feel like you can watch other white people, and like you said, they don't have that clutching of the purse, or
Yeah.
they don't have that fear in their eye because they spent their whole life in this diverse community, and there isn't that classism that we have here. And I really think it is because we are a capitalist society. As much as we don't want to admit it, our entire country is based on money and making money and getting people to buy things. So, what was it? Money's the root of all evil? Is that
Yeah, somewhere in the Bible. Yeah. Yeah, money is or not having it is the root of all evil.
It can go either way.
It can go either way. It can go either way. And what you're just talking about is for the haves and the have-nots, it's an evil. It's an evil created by the system that we live in. This capitalistic system speaking of capitalism, now Santiago, you have your own business, right?
Yes, sir.
And most of your interracial relationships come from your business.
Yes.
And can you share with us what was your approach to people who didn't look like you? I know how you came to me. You just knocked on the door,
Right.
and just said, "I'm here to cut your grass." But for other people who you had to,
Yeah, thank God pretty much all I have is referrals there, like a neighbor referred me to a neighbor. But I've been questioned a couple of times. Like this gentleman who lives in Berkeley. He was like, I need a person to maintain my yard. I need it cleaned up. I need it looking nice. All right, I can do that. So in my third time, the third time that I was cutting the grass, he approached me. He was like, can I offer you a glass of water or something? I was like, I'll take a glass of water. Sure, thank you. And then he started a conversation with racial stuff, like, why are you here? How long you been here? And then, do you have papers? And I'm here to cut your grass and not to speak about my personal life. And he was like, oh, because if you don't have papers, if you're illegal, I have to kick you out of my house.
so let me stop you to get this right. So his gesture of kindness, of hospitality, was the means by which he then flipped and became hostile.
Yeah, hostile. And I told him, you don't have to do that, I show myself to the door, so don't worry about it. And his daughter was there, and he was like, Dad, you're so rude. You shouldn't even, I just want to know who's coming into my house. And I just grabbed my tools, put it in my truck, and I was getting ready to leave, and the lady came and apologized. I'm sorry, my daughter. I was like, hey, I wasn't offended at all. I was just uncomfortable. And I don't want to give him a bad answer, because he was telling me all kind of bad questions. I just don't want to, I don't want to be rude with him. Because it's an old person and rude. I didn't want to use any other bad words against him. So, and he didn't even pay me those 3 visits that I cut the grass. I think that was the main because he said, I don't deserve this money. That was the big words that came out of his mind. You don't deserve this money. You don't deserve American money. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So we've almost come full circle. Your experience in the store with the money exchange, and now his, and then our 5-minute segment almost on capitalism. So if you were to go back and collect now, that money has interest, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the neighbor, he was trying to pay me that money because he's the one who got me into this house. He's the one who told me, my neighbor is an older person and he needs the yard. So
Yeah.
can you do it? I was sure, why not? It's just the next door house. And he was cleaning his pool and he heard the whole conversation. And when I was about to leave, he came out to my truck. He was like, how much he owed you? Oh, this is my third cut. Here, take $200 out of that. No, that's fine. I'm good with you. You paying on time. And it was just a bad situation between me and your neighbor. So I don't want other people to get involved and make this snowball growing and growing.
Yeah, yeah.
And he goes, no, I feel bad because I'm the one to refer you to him, and I'm the one who pushed you to do his house because it was so bad, and you just decided to get it done because of his age, with no question. You just went straight like, sure, I get it done. And the lady was apologizing, and the gentleman that was right there just watching me with a red face, mad, and I was just like, you know what, I have to get out of here because I'm getting so uncomfortable and I might explode saying something, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring anybody in. I was just getting ready to leave the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. That's interesting. So back to the, I'm gonna go back to the question, how do we start to create an environment where everybody feels accepted? We get rid of the segregation, and maybe that starts with tearing down the capitalistic mentality. We learned through COVID that essential workers probably had a place higher than those white collar office workers because we needed them at a time when there were no other options. And so then now when you talk about money and power, is that I stand over you and then I consider what you do, the low wage job, to be insignificant, and now we know that it's not. Not that I've never felt like that, because I knew I could never work in a grocery store, not because there was anything wrong with it, but because they keep the refrigerator on all the time. This was not a place for me. I'm not a grass cutter, so the work that Santiago does is valuable to me because it's not something that I can do or want to do myself, and not because there's anything wrong with it. It's just not in me. I don't want to.
What was funny though is they showed like this gratitude towards essential workers till it was no longer necessary that we needed to show gratitude towards those essential workers, and then they fired a bunch of all the nurses they brought on to work at the hospitals, essential. Then as soon as the COVID floor emptied out, they got fired. Right back to capitalism.
Exactly.
You're essential till you're not.
Exactly. And so for the experience that he has, I'm offended.
Yeah.
That you would think somebody does not deserve to be paid for the honest work that they did under the mask of they don't belong in this country. So let's have a history lesson. Because this is not yours either.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, that's good.
keep
Yeah,
it
that's,
simple. It's not yours.
If you want to, if you want to be completely transparent, looking at a U.S. history, white people came in and they took everything and stamped their flag and said, "This is mine." That is the. If you look back, I did a class in college. It was called "The Ugly History of America," and there was so much of it there that we don't teach that the Europeans that came in, they did a lot of really bad, nasty things to make this country what it is today.
Yeah.
Is stamping down other people. And it wasn't just, enslaving African Americans. They were enslaving white people. They were enslaving Asians. That was ingrained into, they came owning slaves. It was never we need to start slavery. They came already doing it. And it was a booming business. Capitalism.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. Well, for the sake of time, I think that our time is up. That, as you can well see, this conversation can go on and on and on. And so I may ask my beloved professor if we could do this again and cover some more ground. I think this has been so helpful. I hope it can become a model for having interracial discussions for people who are afraid to do it. Never mind my stammering today. I'm trying to find the right words to apply here. But this has been so good. All of you all are just out of sight. You come with such a rich perspective. So if we should do this again, who should we invite to the circle?
I would say probably mix it up some more.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Like a female Asian,
Okay.
just to bring in other perspectives of.
Why don't you all help me do that? We can bring in a female Asian,
A Gen Zer,
maybe somebody from Gen Z.
because I think they now have a new perspective.
Okay.
I agree with you there. We could talk about this for days. To be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, we
But
could. Yeah.
I can see that especially with my son. He
Yeah.
will not refer, and my wife picked up on this quicker than I did, but she goes, there's an African American family a couple houses down, and she's like, he never refers to him as the black boy. He will refer to him like, oh yeah, he's the kid that wears like the sweaters every day, and like he won't call him a black boy. And that seemed odd to her because in our generation, that was like that's how you describe
That's how.
it. It's
Yeah.
like, that's the white kid down the street.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And-
And what's funny about what you said is, for white people, it's very comfortable to say the black people or something like that, but black people have to say the white people. Yeah. So that's very interesting. My daughter also, my youngest daughter also keeps me in check when I go back to using terms from that we are accustomed to using about different moms.
That is so good, though. There's a generation coming
Yeah.
that's retooling how we talk about and observe the other.
Absolutely.
And it is people who are different from ourselves that really make us become better at who we are.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that it is it's phenomenal. So I hope we get a chance to do this again
I do.
and invite several more persons who are part of another ethnic group and really take the conversation to another level. Aaron, thank you so much. Yeah, Santiago, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Carolyn, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, anybody want to say anything in closing before we sign off?
I think this opens up the door wide open. I don't think this door has been just cracked. I think it opens up will open it up wide open, and there are so many possibilities moving forward. If, like you said, if we continue to have these discussions, which am glad you invited me to be a part of, it helps me. And so then now I can help
Yeah.
somebody else.
Yeah.
What little help that could be, but I hope it could be a lot of help. And so I'm grateful and look forward to the next opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you care any, you don't have to, but if you'd like to have a closing
That
statement.
was great. That was good conversation that leads you from one point to another. And like they say, we can keep talking for days and we still at the same point because this is too much to talk about.
Yeah,
And that'll be nice to have another conversation. And I'll be honored to be here.
thank you, thank you. I'm
very
trying to
much.
book you now.
Thank you.
I'm trying to book you now.
Try to keep
This is
our
just, I mean,
minds
this is just
open.
fantastic. Wow. Aaron, you want
I
to
mean,
have closing remarks?
as you may have noticed from the conversation, like I said, like I never felt awkward. Like it never felt like a racial conversation to me. It just feels like
Yeah,
I just wish that I would hope that by doing this we can figure out maybe what the secret sauce is, so to speak. Like it baffles me, as I've said, that there is this construct that I've just never seen. I see it in other people that I don't think about myself. It's the same way that I found out the other day that some people don't have like inner dialogues in their head. Like they can't do that. And that baffles me.
Wow.
So it's the same thing when I see racist people. I just don't understand it, and I really want, if I can help be that catalyst to help other white people to understand or to think the way that I do, then I feel like I've done what God put me here to do.
fantastic.
That's good.
I think that's a good place for us to close and then say this is to be continued.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.